After an extremely cold weekend across the northeastern United States, temperatures do begin to rebound slightly through midweek before another reinforcement shot of cold air by late in the week across portions of the upper Midwest into the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic. And I'll show you here, this is the European model. And take a look at this. This is Tuesday at 1 p.m. We're talking temperatures getting above freezing across portions of the Mid-Atlantic in some places where they haven't seen above freezing temperatures in the last few days, especially over the weekend. And then moving into Wednesday, you'll see this shot of cold air coming in across the Midwest, the upper Midwest. But this is 1 a.m. on Wednesday morning. And take a look at these temperatures across portions of Pennsylvania. We're talking temperatures near 40 degrees around this time. And then this cold shot does move southward, but it's not going to be as cold as this past weekend. But we do get a reinforcement shot of cold air through the end of the week across portions of the upper Midwest into the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast states. And I'll show you here. This is going to be on Thursday at 4 p.m. We're talking temperatures again in the 20s across Pennsylvania, into New York, into Maine, and then also into Michigan here. And let's take a look on Friday through the day. On Friday, which is the day before Valentine's Day, the day that every man in the United States is going to be going out to the store to pick up their candy hearts and the flowers because they always wait till the very last minute. Unlike myself, I don't need to get anything this year. So that's phenomenal. I get to save my money for other stuff. Now let's move on here. We're not gonna trauma drop on you guys. Trauma dump, I guess some would say. Let's move this along here, and this is into the weekend where temperatures do begin to rebound slightly after that reinforcement shot of cold air. And I want to talk about the extended outlook. So let me show you here. Taking a look at the extended outlook, temperatures do appear to be above average across the eastern two-thirds of the nation through the 8 to 14-day period, which would take us from February 16th to the 22nd. And that's going to be due to this ridge in the jet stream that is going to set up here. And I want to show you what the models are showing. Again, like I said, this is going to be a result of the persistent ridginess across the eastern half of the country, as seen here by the positive 500 HPA anomalies during this period, leading to the above average temperatures across the eastern two-thirds through the 8 to 14-day period before another potential cold shot does rise. I think the temperatures, I think they're going to be going back and forth. It's going to be the battle between cold and warm air towards the end of the month, but we are going to experience a slight warm up across the eastern two-thirds. So let's focus on the positive. Take a look at that. Let's just stare at this for a second. All right, let's move on. I want to talk about the storm potential for Valentine's Day weekend. So let's take a look at that now. So again, ahead of this weekend storm system, potential storm system, we are going to have that reinforcement shot of cold air, and that's due to this system here that's going to skirt across the Northeast through Wednesday, through the day into Thursday. And that's going to deliver, again, that reinforcement shot of cold air, but it will not be cold Arctic air. But it could be cold enough, and it should be cold enough to support some snow depending on the track of this storm system. But what do we know this far along? There are a few possible outcomes. So let's go over what the possible scenarios are for this storm. So here is scenario number one, and that is the storm cuts up the East Coast with snow further inland across portions of the Mid-Atlantic into the Appalachian Mountain Range and across the New England and Northeast region, with rain across the Southeast and South Central U.S. That's scenario number one, where it comes up the coast. Then we have scenario number two, and that's that it's a flatter wave and it heads straight out to sea. Euro AI. That's what the Euro AI is showing, and it's been consistently showing that for the last few runs. We do have another scenario, and it's kind of, I didn't make a graphic for it, but imagine being a mix between scenario one and scenario two, so somewhere in between. And that's what the Canadian model is showing, and sort of what the GFS is showing. And that brings some light snow across portions of the Mid-Atlantic. Not a lot, but just eclipse portions of the Mid-Atlantic with some snow, and keeps the bulk of the precipitation down in the south in the form of rain and pushes the storm system out to sea. Whereas, and I'll show you the models here in just a second, but the European brings it up the coast. There's a lot that's going into this storm system. So it's right now, I just want to show you what the models are showing and explain to you why they're showing it. I'm not even going to get into the one that I don't know what is going to happen. I tend to believe that it's going to be somewhere in between scenario 1 and scenario 2. I don't think that it's going to be fully suppressed, but I also do not believe that it's going to go straight up the coast like the European is showing. I really don't believe in that scenario. But let's go into what the models are showing, and let's just discuss. We're going to look at the upper levels, and we're going to look at the surface, and we're just going to discuss as to why each model is choosing that solution. We're going to look at the Euro, we're going to look at the GFS, and we're going to look at the Canadian. Or no, not the Canadian. We'll skip the Canadian this time. We'll look at the Euro AI. All right, so we're going to start by taking a look at the upper levels, the 500 millibar vorticity map. This is the European model. And right now I want you to focus on this piece of energy and this piece of energy. So what's going to happen is when I move this along, this piece of energy is going to circle around this piece of energy, dropping south of it. And then this energy is going to drop into this piece of energy while it's to the south. So there's a lot that's going to be happening here. There's a lot, there's multiple key pieces that have to come together for this storm. And I'm just going to show you here. So this is the energy. It circles around this one, circles around the base of the trough. This energy drops into this piece of energy, skirts across the southwest and south central portion of the U.S. Then you get this trough to dig. And look at this. You have a positively tilted trough here centered over the Mississippi Valley region of the U.S. And it pushes eastward. And then you're going to get this storm to form right up in here on the eastern side of the trough along the frontal boundary. And you get this flow out of the Gulf. So you're going to bring in some Gulf moisture with this scenario, and even, I mean, the other scenarios too, but this scenario, and we're going to get the southwest flow out ahead of this trough here, and that's going to guide this storm up the coast. And then look at this, we do get a negatively tilted trough, which that's going to drive this storm back and up and along the East Coast. And that is what the European model is showing. Let's zoom in here. I want to show you what it looks like at the surface, because that's important too. I want to show you what it looks like at the surface here. So let's zoom in. I had to zoom out because there's a lot to it. There's multiple pieces that have to come together. And let's move this along here. So you get this storm to form, and you get some snow in the mid-Atlantic, western Pennsylvania, into western and central New York, into Massachusetts, Boston, Connecticut, into Vermont, New Hampshire, up into Maine. And you get some heavy snow with this solution. And this is the European model. You don't have a strong supply of cold air like we did ahead of the last major winter storm that brought a huge swath of wintry precipitation across a large span of the U.S. And you're also going to have this high pressure sitting along the East Coast here, and that's going to funnel southerly air because you get the clockwise flow around the high pressure. So that's going to funnel air from the south up ahead. And look at this 540 line ahead of the storm. It gets pushed up into near New York. So I think most of southeastern PA, if this solution does occur, I think most of southeastern Pennsylvania stays in the rain. I don't think maybe in the onset you would see some wintry precipitation, but southeastern Pennsylvania and even into south central Pennsylvania, I think you would mainly see a rain event out of this. There's not going to be a whole lot of Arctic air supply ahead of this storm. Yes, we're going to get that reinforcement shot of cold air, but it's not going to be that strong. Now I want to show you what the GFS is showing. So let's start with the surface for the GFS. And here's your storm forming across the south central US, and it pushes east. And you see what I'm talking about. I showed you scenario 1 and scenario 2, where scenario 2 is it stays suppressed all the way into the southeast region of the US, south central and southeastern portions. And scenario 1 brings some snow across the mid-Atlantic into the northeast and New England region. This is kind of a mix in between. You get some light snow here across portions of Pennsylvania, into New Jersey, into New York, potentially into Connecticut, southern New England. But the bulk of the storm stays to the south and it heads straight out to sea. And I want to show you what it looks like at the upper levels to show you why it's doing this. All right, so this is the upper levels. This is the 500 millibar vorticity map for the GFS. And look at this northern piece. It does not dig nearly as far south as what the European is showing. I want to show you here. Let's look at the European. Look at these isobars. They start to bend southward. Look at this. They're bending southward here. Look at the GFS at the same time period. GFS, no, it's a flatter wave and it goes straight out to sea. So that's what the GFS is doing. Now let's take a quick look at what the Euro AI is showing. I want to show you what the Euro AI is. This is the Euro AI, and let's move this along here. Let me just get this in the screen here so you can see it. Let's move this along. Look at that. That's scenario number 2. It stays suppressed to the south. So you got the Euro AI, you got the GFS. Canadian is very similar to what the GFS is showing, and then you got the European model. So they're each taking different tracks. I don't know exactly which one is going to be correct, but I will say that there is a potential for some snow. It's just really going to be dependent on the track because the cold air supply is not going to be that far south. So if this storm stays suppressed to the south, we don't see any snow out of it. If it takes a more northerly track, that's when I see the potential for some snow out of this storm system. It's going to be heavily dependent upon the track. So stay with me. I will keep you guys updated. If anything changes, I will let you guys know. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe. And thank you guys for watching.